Hello YouTube! I recently had the opportunity to sit down and chat with Logan Hillier about his work on Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2, and while we will not discuss KCD 2 story points in this interview, the nature of our discussion here means that this video does contain spoilers for the first game. So if you haven't played KCD 1 all the way through, best to look away right now. Here is Logan capturing and beating up Sean Bean.
It's not your concern.
But we, of course, know him much better for capturing and beating up Henry of Skalitz as treacherous bad guy Istvan Toth.
Well, I mean, it's been a long while since I had a romantic lead, you know?
We had a long chat about his career path and several of his projects as well as KCD, so I'll go turn on the lights and we can hear what he had to say. Don't go away. Sorry, I just started the recording now before I forget.
Yeah, okay, no worries, man. No worries.
Because I do have to have this stuck to my monitor so that I remember.
That's okay.
So yeah, I'm. Most of my viewers are, most of my viewers are going to be KCD fans. I kind of accidentally became known as a KCD YouTuber, and it was never my intent. So I've kind of tried to change that, but a lot of my viewers are still very KCD oriented, and I'm still excited for the next game. So there'll be questions.
Man. I play, so I'm very excited for the next game as well. Yeah.
Well, that's actually one of my viewers asked that question. Actually, they said, "Can you ask him? Is he a gamer? Does he play?" Let me see if I can move this because I've got my questions here. If I can move it out of the way. The other problem is because of this glare I get from my glasses, I have to try to get the eye line sort of right. So at least I'm looking roughly in the right. Because this is a new thing for me. I haven't worn glasses for very long, so I only have them for reading. But I'm too close to the screen. So without them, you're a bit blurry.
Yeah, I used to wear them. I wore glasses for at least 10 years, something. But my eyes got better. It was quite weird. But basically, I think one eye was long-sighted and one eye was short-sighted. And one kind of decayed to be the opposite, and it kind of balanced out. And so suddenly my eye, it was weird. It was very strange. But
my wife had the same
surgery or anything. I just didn't need glasses anymore. So
my wife had the same thing when she was younger. I think she had to wear a patch for a while because one of them was sort of compensating for the other.
Yeah, I probably should have done that. Actually, that would have been badass.
An eye patch.
Yeah, that would have been great for the development of my evil persona.
Right. So before we kick off, a couple of things. So I'm not that familiar with Zoom myself. The interview with Toby that I did I did an interview with Toby. I started off with that one because I know Toby fairly well. We've had drinks and stuff, and I know him all right, so I felt a bit more comfortable. But this will only be my second Zoom interview, so I haven't yet paid for the full version of Zoom, which means I only get so long and will probably get cut off. If that happens, I'll just send you another message, another link.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. No worries. And actually, I just loaded it up and it did something a bit weird as well. So I apologize if anything bizarre happens, but it said it was some exceptional error.
I think we're good. I think everything's
on my end, though, I have like a somewhat weak internet link here, and if it goes, I'll just have to swap to the upstairs link, which is fine.
Sure, no problem. Right. I'll just run my little usual intro that I do, and then we'll...
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no worries.
As I said, I'll be recording the whole time, but I won't put absolutely everything in. I'll just
mix and match.
Yep. Hello, welcome to Night's Arcade. I am Sleepless Night, and today I'm here with Logan Hillier, who all of you KCD fans will know as Istvan Toth from Kingdom Come Deliverance, who will be returning in KCD 2. Welcome to the arcade.
Lord be praised.
Indeed, it's very good to have you with us. I've got a few questions of my own, of course, because I'm a voiceover artist. You can probably tell I'm in my booth. That's my.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice suite.
Yeah, I'm a VO artist. That's my day job. So I
Nice.
suppose I should start by saying I'm sorry I called you a sword-stealing asshole in my trailer breakdown, but
Oh,
what are you going
dude,
to
it's
do?
okay. People have thrown a lot of stuff at
A lot
me
worse.
over the last few weeks. I'm ready. Bring it, you know.
Excellent, excellent. That's what I like to hear.
I
On
feed on your hatred, everyone. Yeah,
on the
so
flip side
just
of
pump
that,
it into me, you know. Yeah. Thank
on the
you.
flip side of that, you and Geggs made me get Instagram as a result. So like, I feel like we're even now.
Yeah, that's its own form of evil. Definitely Instagram. You
Oh,
know,
I
there's different
absolutely,
planes of
I
evil
agree.
that we get sucked into.
So first off, would you now do you, this is a strange thing because I imagine when I was younger, I was sort of invited to the. I went for an interview and everything, an audition, and I was invited to the National Youth Theatre in the UK, and I chose not to for my own stupid reasons. It's one of those things I regret not doing, but as a result, I've only eventually found my way back into acting through voiceover. Do you consider yourself an actor first and a VO second, or do you not see any distinction between the two?
I don't know. I think probably, well, my journey's quite very strange, like back into theatre or back into acting, as you say. Because I guess probably like you, I was a child actor, so you know I was in that kind of National Youth Theatre stuff and at acting school
Hmm.
when I was like 11 until 16. So I basically, you know, learned to be an actor when I was younger, and um, but then I decided I wanted to go into science. So
Oh,
I
right.
went into yeah, like my background's in biochem and genetics in terms of university. But then, you know, I did a little bit of science work after, you know, university for government
Yeah.
and hospitals and so on. But then I started teaching science. Actually, I was a science teacher in Colville in the
Right.
UK. It was great. I love it. I love it. I had so many great experiences there. And then I started teaching the drama club. And then I kind of like, and then when I moved to Prague, I was kind of like taught myself to be a drama teacher as well as a science teacher. And so I started teaching drama in Prague as well. And that led me into those, you know, expat actor circles with
Yeah,
probably a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of the other actors that you've talked to. And yeah, and then you know one thing led to another, and you're just getting roles in films and so on because it's Prague, so it's a scene, and you know I guess the advantage that we have out there is that you know there's not so much competition,
Yeah.
and
No, oh,
obviously
I know that
yeah, I mean that's the
personal
thing.
experience. Yeah.
South Korea as well, you know those
Yeah.
actors out there, the expat actors, you know, they're getting jobs that they wouldn't necessarily get in London, right? But at the same time, you know, as a group of actors, we've gained loads of experience over the years, so
Yeah.
we're a very experienced team. So yeah, we're an interesting bunch.
Yeah, it is a lot easier. I mean, I started, as I say, I got into voiceover by accident. I was living in Sweden, in Stockholm, and
Right.
I was a tour guide there at the time. But as you can imagine, a lot of it was cruise ships, and as you can probably imagine, Stockholm does not get cruise ships in the winter. A lot of them
Right.
can't even get into the harbour some days because it's all
Yeah,
frozen
yeah.
over. But so I signed up to an extras website. I thought I haven't done any acting for a long time. I'm sure that, just as something to help get me. And as you say, as a native English speaker in Stockholm, voiceover work particularly is quite easy to come by when you're,
Yeah.
well, at least a lot easier than it is now that I'm back in the UK.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
back in the UK, that's not quite as easy. They're everywhere, but
yeah.
in other countries. So yeah. So how did you initially get the job playing Istvan Toth? What? So I mean, you say you were living in Prague. So
Oh,
how?
what the role
Yeah,
from
the role.
Wars?
Yeah.
There was a series of like castings and so on, and I don't know. I don't know how much I should say about this, but like I think I was either a good voice fit or a good face fit for one of Dan's like bête noirs from his history. I think so.
Right.
He channeled some of that villain from his past, but again, I don't want to go into any more detail about that. So I think I resonated with him. I guess I must have done.
With
Yeah,
Dan.
and then I played a bunch of other little roles in it as well. I didn't really even realize what the part was to begin with, Isfan, in terms of the complexity and the depth and breadth of the role. It's been really great to play him. But yeah, I played a bunch of other characters as well in that first one. So
it's been so long since I actually played. As I say, I've become known for that game, but it's actually been a very long time. People ask me questions about it all the time. I say, I haven't actually played the game for years now, really, because I tend to play a game to death and then move on.
Yeah, and then stop. No, it was a great game. It was a great game.
Oh,
like I played it, and there were some amazing scenes in there. And I love the Father Godwin scene is insanely good. It's so funny. Amazing. I was just laughing my ass off when I played that for the first time. That was a friend of mine, actually, Scott Williams. He did brilliant. It was so funny. And the other one that really sticks in my memory in terms of comedy was the one where you follow the witches into the woods and they all
gosh.
Oh my, that was so
funny. All about that.
I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's very lewd, everyone. When you figure it out, it's very lewd.
That is a trippy scene.
Yeah. And it was interesting how they put that magic element in there with drugs and hallucinations and so on. And so they incorporated it all really well while sticking to the no magic theme. But that's what's great about it, actually, because there's no magic. You start focusing on the natural threats, and there are many, right, in the game. So
of course, I think it's because I think, as I say, as a result of my channel developing the way it has, people expect me to play medieval games and fantasy games, which is not really my thing. It's not really my favorite genre, but I really, really, what appealed to me about KCD is all the marketing they did beforehand, particularly about how great the combat would be and how much they were concentrating on the realism of the combat. And I must admit, anybody that's watched my series of walkthroughs from back in 2018 knows, you can tell just by watching them, that for the first 3 or 4 hours, I hated that game.
It resists you, doesn't it? It may, but in the end, that's why you get into it, and that's the nature of any great RPG. I think that you feel the pain at the beginning, you feel what it's like to be level 1, and then you really appreciate it when you're level 50.
I think I was first really drawn in by the Hans Capon hunting scene, and then I was hooked from there on out.
That was good. That was good.
But
again, having to follow him on the horse, all of those kind of tasks really built the character extremely well.
Absolutely.
And I was really happy to play it, and I was lucky, I think, because I had a decent computer at the time, so I didn't really have any problems per se. But learning the combat is one of the best parts about it, because you're not just like, oh, I know this because it's the same as every game. You actually have to learn. You have to learn. So it was really rewarding, and you're learning all the history as well at the same time.
So one of the things that really drew me in, as well as over time, of course, the combat got me hooked in the first place, but over time, the story and how the characters developed and the acting, I just was so much better than a lot of the stuff that was about at the time. And I have to say, and this is nothing to do with me interviewing you now, one of I don't know, perhaps because I'm a VO, I don't know, but I kind of latch on to certain lines from TV shows and movies, and they stay with me for weeks and weeks. And whenever I tell people what they are, they give me funny looks like, why that line? That's so obscure. I don't know. I just like the way it was delivered. And for me, one of my favorites is Vranic Camp, when it becomes clear to Henry, spoiler alert for anyone who's not played KCD, you might want to skip the next 20 seconds or so. When it becomes clear to Henry that you're there, that Istvan Toth is there, there's this back and forth exchange between the two of you about the sword, and I loved it. And there's one line that for some reason it just lives in my head rent-free, which is why you say to him, and I suspect he's looking for this, and it's the sword. And you say, am I right, young man?
And I expect he's looking for this. Am I right, young man? You bastard.
And it's, I don't know why, but the way that line is delivered, it lives rent free in my head. I thought it was just
when he
so
says,
well done.
when he says, you know what, I think I'll keep it. That's like,
Yeah.
and being in the Czech Republic for a long time as well, I can really appreciate the Czech humor in that ending.
Yeah.
It's like really, really dark Czech humor. And it's like you go through all of that effort, you go through all of that work, and it's like, ha, next time. So yeah, it was really, because I mean, I guess when you're playing the game for the first time, you figure that you're going to get the sword about halfway through or something, you know,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
and then you're going to enjoy using it. But no, it's a symbol, and it's great how they're doing that. I mean, I can talk about my, you know, kind of literary take on it, but I think it's brilliantly written. And because it's so, that's part of why it's so immersive, you know, it's brilliantly written. And you really feel like you're there.
I think the struggle, as you said before, I think the struggle to the struggle that you have to go through in the early parts of the game really, really drags you into it, and you become invested in a way. This is what's impressing me about video games these days, and why I'm so interested in it, because I personally haven't been involved in many video games as a VO. I've done 3. One of them is a mobile game. I can't remember what it was called. One of them was a single line, and the others were just, I think it was a few lines that I did. But I haven't done much video game work. So, but it fascinates me how the difference between how invested you become in the TV or movie character that you're watching and video games. It's much more like reading a novel or a series of novels. You become so much more invested in the characters. And I think you definitely gave off. I remember the scene where you first meet Henry and Radzig, and they're there with Martin, and you were definitely giving off bad guy vibes there.
What say you, Svan?
True, Sir Radzig. If I'd have had its like back in Nicopolis, things would have worked out differently. How odd to find such an accomplished swordsmith working in a place like this.
Very definitely, I thought, oh, I don't like this
radiating
guy.
Background evil.
Because I don't think there will be many people watching this who are not already KCD fans. But for those who might not be too familiar with it, there is. I guess if you played KCD but have played it a while ago and maybe forgotten about it, of course, I regard Istvan Toth as it's almost like a Darth Vader Emperor situation for Star Wars fans. It's like there's a Istvan Toth I think of as the real evil bad guy in the background there. He's like people talk about Markvart von Aulitz, but he seems less like a soldier doing his job to me.
Yeah, I think he's more like Istvan's more like Littlefinger, right? From Game of Thrones, you know. Yeah. He's more of a rogue than he is a warrior. But he's just a very high level rogue. Is the way I saw him, you know what I mean? In terms of his swordsmanship, I guess that's down to the designers, you know, and whatever goes into how good I am at the sword. But but the moves he makes, you know, he's more of a rogue. And
do you enjoy playing villains? I mean, I know this is the classic question for actors, but from when I've had to do it I love it, and I know what my reasons are, but I'm just curious to know what your reasons are, if that's something that you enjoy doing. I know a lot of actors do.
Well, I mean, it's been a long while since I had a romantic lead, you know. But when I was growing up, I did those kind of like romantic kind of hero kind of parts. And I guess, I mean, you know, like they're always they don't have the edge, do they, that villains have?
No.
And you know, it comes down into like why is evil beautiful? You know, why did Lucifer fall and all of that kind of thing? I mean, you know, evil is attractive. So yeah, I mean, it's finding the tragedy of why the character is evil rather than playing them just purely as a devil, which is two-dimensional, right? And I think you certainly get to know Istvan pretty well, you know, in many ways. And you're beginning to detect where the origin of evil is, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the more interesting things for me as an actor about the sequel, because obviously, you know, Istvan's in it. You can tell that from the trailer, but you know, you do learn more about his character and so on. So and there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. As I said, I mean, all of the characters are very well written, but I really enjoyed discovering those levels for myself, you know, as well when I was working on it, and also afterwards thinking about it. I'm like, oh, I see what they've done there. You know, I see what the writer's done there. The director, you know, the directing is the action, it's in the moments and so on. But then you step back at it, you look at it as a piece of writing, and you go, oh, I see. You know, it's
well, a lot of it is in, particularly if it's a video game or a TV show or a movie. I think a lot of it is in the back. I think a lot of playing a villain or writing a villain or writing any character really is in the things that you don't tell the audience explicitly. And I think who am I thinking of now? I think Ian McDiarmid, when he was invited back to the Star Wars prequels, I seem to remember him saying something like, he said, well, it's, as you just said, it's the nuance really. Because I think what he said was, even if you think about it, even Lucifer fell. So no one is, you know, he's the personification of evil in most people's minds, but even he fell, you know, nobody starts off that way, or, you know, the majority of people don't start off that way.
It's like, you know, like any bad character has got to have something that's driving them to do what they're doing, especially if they're doing more evil. And I think that's what makes them fascinating, because they're kind of puzzles, aren't they? They're riddles that you have to kind of unlock. They're mysterious and powerful and often intelligent, and so they're always generating this kind of like attractiveness. But I mean, I don't know about whether I would select villains. You know, like if I could pick my, you know, favorite roles to play, whether I would pick, it's always the bad guy. Because I think you know, especially as I get older as well, and like, you know, and I reach you know, I encounter different parts in theatre and in various areas. You know, I'm playing kind of older characters. It's kind of like, well, yeah, you go through that evil, you know, like everyone has to battle, everyone has to go to war, you know, at some point in your life, you have to go to war, you have to fight for something that you believe in. And those experiences often, you often do things that you don't necessarily want to have done, you know, or regret, you know, and they shape you. So those bad experiences you have and those bad things that you do, you know, if you can turn them into wisdom, I think that's where the journey from villain to Gandalf is, you know, and that's the kind of journey that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I think as actors, I think all actors enjoy, you know, what they really want is a character with depth, and there's, you know, as we all do, and of course you get to explore a lot of that. If it's written well, you get to explore a lot of that in villains, particularly because, you know, everybody wants to know what drives them and what's motivating them. Here's a weird question that somebody asked me to ask. It was actually my wife that suggested I ask this, and I thought, that's fine. She wanted to know. She said, "What? So while making KCD, she says, is there a sort of vibe? Do the bad guys and the good guys, do you hang out, or is this unspoken kind of wall between?"
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think, you know, like a lot of people, you know, they do a lot of projecting, you know, onto me, and that's okay. You know, I'm okay with that. You know, if I'm kind of like ostracized, you know, then it kind of means that I've done a great job as an actor.
Oh yeah,
because absolutely. You know, I'm being ostracized because they do actually genuinely dislike me because I'm Sven Tott. So, you know, but yeah, I hope they've got, you know, a soft spot somewhere in their hearts for me and think about me occasionally. You know?
I love the character
when they're having a drink together without me.
Honestly, as I said, I don't know why. I think there are lines that are delivered in such a way, as I said before, that they just live rent. You know, I mean, there are obvious ones. You know, you look at like I was watching a thing recently about James Spader and some popular. Oh, it was the Avengers when he was in Age of Ultron, I think, and he did these, you know, his whole gravelly I was tangled in strings, kind of, that kind of, which it's just amazing. Is there a voice? I know you consider it, so it'd been more acting as a broad scope, but in terms of voice, is there a voice that you can think of that you envy or that you wish you had, or that's like, oh wow, that really blows you away when you hear just the quality of their voice as well as how they deliver their line?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it might, you know what, I'm going to go with a very actorly answer, but I think it might be Richard Burton. And I think it was from that War of the Worlds, Jeff Wayne's
Jeff
War.
Wayne's
I mean,
yeah.
my God, man, and like I learned
Superb.
that voice, like no one would have believed in the later part of the 19th century. Human affairs. I mean, like, oh, it's great.
I love that. That is,
and I think
honestly,
did he play O'Brien in 1984 as well, if I remember rightly?
Oh yes, he did. Yeah, he did.
He was unbelievable at that, because it's that I wasn't a huge fan of that adaptation, because obviously you prefer the book and so on. But then looking at it critically as an actor, you're like, damn, that's good, man, because what a role. To do that speech, like the party stamping on the face of humanity forever, and he's got the whole gravity of the party and the responsibility of the party that drives him into this fascist kind of.
It is so long since I've seen that adaptation. I forgot he was in it.
I taught the monologue for a few years, because I get into a monologue and I like teaching it, and then you explore the monologue in different ways. But that monologue, it's like, oh man, it's brutal.
Oh, I did. I mean, it did a lot of that going through college, but it was mainly with Shakespeare, because most of what I was studying was, English language, English literature.
It's like that. I mean, my background's in Shakespeare.
They like to hammer Macbeth to death at every opportunity for your teaching. It's like the number of times it comes up.
I know. I have a lot of sympathy. I tried not to do that in my own teaching, precisely because it's so done. It's so done, and you think about, if you're a student and you're going to an interview or an audition or something, and you're bringing another Ophelia and you're bringing another Juliet and so on, it's like, oh, come on. You got to get clever, I think, these days to like stand out a little bit. So, I mean, if Shakespeare's the rule, which it often is in these auditions, then you have to figure out a way of doing something interesting with it.
So what are you involved with at the moment, if you can tell us? What are you, because you're in Greece.
I've got a play. I've got a play that I've written with a friend of mine, he's I think he's a doctor of comparative literature from Yale, so he's very, very, very qualified. And I had this, it was a chapter from a Moorcock book. I don't know if you know Michael Moorcock at all. Like high fantasy, like proper high mental.
Yeah, not familiar. Not familiar with the name, I'm afraid.
And it's a crazy play about people playing with like computer games, and they needed this game to be so powerful that it required the power source to drive the game, and the game was called the Game of Time. And then the power source to drive it kind of broke reality. And so the players are kind of all around this vortex, and they're kind of watching reality kind of splinter, and they're trying to reshape it and stuff. But he's done an amazing job with it. I'm really looking forward to producing that. And I play a character who goes through different transformations, but one of the people that he becomes is Shakespeare, which is why I've kind of let my hair do this kind of Shakespearean thing. So I'm gonna, but then what happens in the play? Because I know many of your viewers won't get to see it, but hopefully I can share some video. But because they're kind of being pulled through these dimensional rifts, they're getting fused into different things. So Shakespeare kind of fuses with Kafka at one point and becomes like Kafka.
Okay.
Yeah, it's theatre. You know what theatre's like. It's theatre. And then I'm also with a company in Prague called Sadi 10, Sadi 10 Divadlo, and they're a great bunch, and they've got a play going to Edinburgh Fringe called Burnout. So if you're there, go and check out Burnout. That's my company. I won't be there, but I'll be with them in spirit. And but then I think we're going to be doing something in Prague as well. in the fall, and then maybe Little Shop.
Oh,
Maybe
really?
Little Shop.
Okay.
I know. I'm
That
quite
seems to have
excited.
that seems to have had a comeback lately. Really,
Yeah, I
I've
know. I
seen
think
quite a few
everyone's ready
people.
for a Little Shop revival.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to play the plant. I'm
No,
fingers
nice.
crossed. So, so theatre pretty much, and then, but I'm also in Stalker 2,
Oh, right.
the
Yeah.
computer game. Yeah, I've got a part in that. So, but I don't want to give any information about that. I don't know like what they have revealed and what they haven't. So I won't say anything further. But I'm in that.
All right.
So you can come and find me there in Stalker 2.
Right. I think that's where I'm going to have to send you another link before I just get to the. I've got a couple of
Yeah.
questions from
Okay.
viewers.
All right.
So
That's
I'm
a
going to
good
have to
point to
send you another
break.
link. So
Sorry, I went into my call outs there probably too early.
Oh no! I know what that's like, buddy. I get because
And this interview
I'm
is sponsored by my theatre company.
no, but that's I absolutely I encourage you wholeheartedly to do that sort of thing, and I will in my Discord server because there are a lot of when I asked people, I said, look, I'm not going to do. I've got an interview with Logan. I only told them about it actually a couple of hours ago in my Discord server, the viewers, and I said I've got an interview with Logan Hillier coming up today. I'm not going to ask so many viewer questions this time, but if you've got something you want to ask him that isn't KCD2 story related, I'll see if I can. I said, but I did have one person there that was saying, oh well, what about this? And I said, look, asking asking sequel story questions is a good way to not get any more interviews with people. To be honest, it's all right with. It was okay with Toby.
And to be honest, we're just ruining it for you. So we
Yeah, of course.
we wouldn't want to do it anyway. You know, I wouldn't want to do that. It's like people who, spoiled Game of Thrones, just assholes. So,
God,
I think even without the contract, I think we wouldn't tell you anyway because
no, of course, yeah. No, it's not something. It's not something. I'm supposed to be interviewing Luke, but we agreed between us that I wouldn't do it until after the game was released. Now, I think he's being guarded, and we're all those of us who tried to interview him have all drawn our own conclusions as to whether or not why are they being so secretive with Luke this time? Why? But it's all we don't really want to know. We just kind of.
We've got Well,
the community expects you to speculate about it.
But yeah, I can't tell you details, obviously. But it's good.
No, of course not.
It's great. I mean, like, I don't know if we've stopped recording at the moment, but like, I will tell you maybe in the second part of the interview. But it's great. I can guarantee you're gonna love it.
My memory is I'm a bit of a Luddite, I'm afraid.
Yeah, me too. I'm basically
not really
living
great
with rocks at the moment.
YouTube
it's just
content
rocks.
creator these days. Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Banging together rocks is about my.
Yeah, just rocks and sand. That's all we need. What do you just build a pyramid from that, right?
Oh dear me. I don't know. I've had to have this door open 5 minutes. It gets so hot in this room. Now that it's getting to this time of year in the UK. It gets so hot in here. Whoops. I'm clicking on the wrong thing.
Hydrate.
There we go. Oh yes, don't forget to hydrate. Is actually Geggs coming to me with this actually before we get back to the questions. Geggs coming to me with this that really because he's been a viewer of mine for 3-4 years, I think. And we've had quite a lot of back and forth, but it's him coming to me with this that made me go, because initially he said, "Oh, do you want to get an interview?" I said, I don't know if I really want to do interviews, to be honest. It's not because I'm a writer myself. I'm a content creator. I'm a frustrated filmmaker. So it's like I want to create things. I don't really want to. I've already become known for reviewing things that other people create, critiquing. I don't know if I want to interview. But once I started thinking about it, I thought this could be great. Actually, there'd be lots of things that I would like to ask. So I'm glad that he kind of pushed me on it, really, and I'm glad that we're doing it.
Yeah, he should be my manager. He's doing a great job. That guy's pushing me into all sorts of things.
We've started calling him the Warhorse Whisperer in the in the Discord.
Yeah, he really is
because he keeps coming.
Super fan.
There are lots of them for KCD, I tell you.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing though, isn't it? Because it's so immersive and because it's got that niche, it's got that medieval niche, and there's so many like reenactment groups out there, and all
Oh,
these
it has. I've discovered actually more so since the second game came along, just how hardcore some of the fans of KCD are. I did
I don't
did
know
a
the limits.
speculation video looking at the
You
trailer
look
and saying,
scared.
"Oh, I'm speculating about this," and I've never done that before. And I immediately delved into this weird world that I wasn't familiar with at all. Of these people who are going, yes, and what about this detail on the shield in this? They're like, whoa, can you make more of those videos? I said, I think that's it for me. Not really.
Yeah.
Bit hardcore for me, but yeah, sure. Right, I've got one more question for you, or a couple of questions. Then I've got a couple of questions from viewers. So this one's just one of mine. So is there a particular person or actors that inspired you to become an actor? I know you said it kind of happened organically over time. It was something you did when you were younger and then came back to, but who were your favorites?
Damn it, that's a great question. I don't know. Like I get okay, so the teenage kind of boy question is like all the good fellas, So that's
right.
it.
Okay.
Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta. I really like Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
And actually, my favorite Ray Liotta thing is in Revolver, which is a Guy Ritchie film, which is really underrated because it's quite experimental, but he's great in that. So actually, Ray Liotta might be towards the top of my favorites. John Malkovich, just because for me, he's kind of transcended the triangle of the art. Like he's become both himself and everyone and no one at the same time. Yeah. And he delivers, and like in terms of his delivery.
Well, he did that literally, of course, didn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, in being John Malkovich, that was the portal, right, that he went through, and then he's transcended the art, I think. And so I respect him a lot. Philip Seymour Hoffman was great, the late Philip Seymour. But excellent actor. I don't know, I've got a lot of time for, and especially I don't really know names, but especially Netflix has allowed you to see like Central European actors, like German especially, and Danish, and I think they're great. And I honestly think, I'm not saying this as a kind of like warning shot or anything, but I think that a lot of British acting has got a little bit samey and and it's great for the American market, candy coated England, like, oh, did you, but and these acting schools kind of manufacture these types, but I think it's a bit cookie cutter, and then you get to like, I don't know if you've watched Dark on the Netflix show, but that's German acting, but there's just solid acting in there, clever acting. And they don't need to eat a sandwich every minute to make it look realistic. They're just like burying the acting.
We've got this gimmick. Let's overuse it.
Yeah. So I think, again, I don't really know names to hand of those actors, but I think Britain needs to watch out, because I think, we are getting a bit lazy personally. And I don't say that to be mean. I just honestly think.
We're actually just watching... I know it's years old now, but Fargo, the TV show.
That's great.
Which I wasn't familiar with at all, but we started watching that and got hooked on it. So
that's great. That's great.
Some great stuff.
Yeah, she's great. I don't know which season she's in, but is it Kirsten Dunst?
Okay, yeah, she's actually in the one I think we've just finished that season. She's in the second season of that. Yeah,
I don't want to give any spoilers, but the ending for that is wild, and
it's bananas, like how that.
Yeah, and actually now we're on the subject of, because she's great. There's a film you might not know about. It's called, what's it called? It's like a sci-fi. I'll remember the name. My brain will give it to me in a moment, but it's a sci-fi with her in, and she's got her son has got some kind of weird psychic power. And that film escalates beautifully. I was like, whoa, like it's continuous escalation. And she's great in that. Yeah,
I'm a movie fan first, I'm afraid, and a gamer second, so I'm a storyteller.
I don't know. I'm mixed about like more
mainly from
strategy
the
games, you know. So I've dumped most of my time into like Civilization and yeah, that kind of thing. Tropico, it's quite funny, you know. I spent a lot of time
yeah.
on
Very similar lines
Tropico.
again. Yeah.
But not really action games. RPGs. I like RPGs. Fallout New Vegas is probably the best game that ever existed. I love Kingdom Come. I'd put it in my top 5 for sure. Kingdom Come.
We love you here already. I do. If you're a New Vegas fan,
I mean,
you know, it's the highlight of the franchise, no question in my mind.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to offend anyone about that, but Fallout 4 as well, guys. If you're watching this, I don't know what you were doing with the writing there, but you did something. I think you were trying to experiment a bit like it was a bit similar to The Last Jedi, the experiment. But why do you like? You get like basically you. The problem with the writing. So I'll be very quick here. You don't have to use this, but you know, it's like they have this mercenary character that he's the first bad guy, right? He's the first bad guy, and you have to work quite hard to beat him. It's pretty tricky to beat him. And then you get a bit of his brain, and then you have to go through his mind, right? And learn all about him, right? And learn his whole backstory and everything that happened to him and all of these things, right? You get out the other side with a bit of information on that, and then he's dead. He's never mentioned again. And you've created a thing to make this brilliant antagonist, and then you've just let him go. And then you could have brought him back as a synth, you know, like just basics.
You know, it happens. I think.
No offense.
Again. I'm gonna be as quick as I can here, because like when you start talking about movies and things like that, I can chat to you all day about that. So I'll try and make it quick.
Yeah, I'm not on a time limit. Don't worry.
This weekend we watched finally Dune Part 2, Villeneuve's Part 2. Dune,
I haven't seen that yet. Okay.
Now, I don't read a lot of science fiction generally, but I have been encouraged. You know, I've read Dune and I read Dune, and I wasn't, I've got to say, super impressed with Lynch's 84 version. But I watched the first part.
I love Lynch, obviously, but I think even Lynch didn't like that, so it's okay not to like that.
I wouldn't really be all that surprised if that turned out to be the case. But the first part of Villeneuve's, I just thought it's mind blowing. And everybody was talking about Dune 2, and I watched it, and I haven't told anybody this. You're the first person I said this, but I thought this is a super unpopular opinion. But I thought that Dune Part 2 was one of the most poorly paced movies I think I've seen in a long time.
Too slow.
I mean, the cinematography, a bit like Ridley Scott. It's like watching Ridley Scott. Cinematography, superb. But the thing about Ridley is he doesn't really seem to know anything about people. His characters are usually quite flat and they're not very interesting, but it's beautiful to watch. The notable exception to that for me is The Martian, which I think is one of the best films he ever made. Superb. Scott, that is, not Villeneuve.
I watched that the other night, actually. That's fresh in my mind. I enjoyed it. I didn't really particularly like it the first time round, and I think it was because I was living in the middle of Civilization, and I was very like, oh, haha. Right. And then I've been living on a desert island for a few years, and now I very much sympathize with Matt Damon's character. You've got to science your way out of this, people. There is no other way.
Absolutely. I'm a bit of a NASA geek, so I really love that. But
it was good though. It was good. And you know, Matt, I watched Oppenheimer as well recently. And again, I went into it kind of like, because I kind of got mixed opinions on Nolan for a bunch of different reasons, but I went into it and I was like, you know what, they've given all the acting awards to this, so I'm going to have my focus as acting, you know, and just like, okay, I'm going to look at it through the actor lens, not the director or the camera or whatever. And Matt Damon was good. He was solid. But Robert Downey Jr. was great.
Yeah.
I thought he was genuinely great. I was a little bit like, on Cillian Murphy, but like, and he's great, obviously, normally.
Of course.
But yeah, I thought Robert Downey Jr. did actually a fantastic job of that. I think he nailed it.
I think. Oh, anyway, let's. I'm not going to go off on another tangent because I'm.
Yeah. We'll annoy
okay, so back to KCD.
Yeah, so Ray Liotta. I think was the quick answer. Ray Liotta.
Ray Liotta is the quick answer. Right. Excellent. Right. So, regarding KCD 2, how has the experience of making this one been different than the first one? Because I know that Luke was talking to me about how, you know, you had the whole face get up this time with the cameras. I mean, some of them did. I don't know if you did, but they had the whole rig for the mocap. Whereas before, I think in the previous game it was, you know, the old tennis balls on.
That was like being a cyborg, to be honest.
Balls on, yeah.
Yeah, because you have this weird.
In what other ways has it been sort of different from the first, if any?
It's a good question, but I think like for me, like I was pretty okay. So the way I see it, right, and other actors may see it differently to me, but the way I see it is it's very close to studio theatre in terms of the acting that you have to do. Yes, you have to do the pretend CGI thing for, you know, like the kind of Hollywood, you know, acting stuff that isn't there and all of that. But with the people that you're with, you're right there with them, and the camera is super close up. So it's more like studio theatre in terms of the acting between people. So I already felt pretty good about acting in that way the first time, and I really enjoyed it. And it was great with everyone, obviously acting with Tom and, you know, a bunch of the other actors as well. It's fantastic working with all of them, and the director of the first one was great as well. And the director of the second one is also fantastic. So the team was excellent. But to me, it was still like a studio theatre thing. So I felt like I was sharp to it. And then what happened is I went through before we did some of the stuff, which I think you'll see in the game actually, but in terms of the acting that I'm kind of producing, I'd done a lot of like really intense plays that were really intimate studio theatre. So it was a boutique play with this Sadi 10 Divadlo company in Prague. And it was Death and the Maiden. I don't know if you know that play, but it's really
no, I don't know. Not familiar.
It's like it's horrible. It's, you know, based Pinochet, you know, a horror.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was a villain again, and a really, really terrible villain. You are, you know, in the same kind of level as this fan, similar. Yeah, in fact, that's true. It was very similar to Isfan in some ways, because he was a bit of a rogue and he's pretending to be someone that he isn't, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd done that, and the director had like beaten the crap out of me for like 6 weeks. It was really methody, and she dragged me across like the marble floor, and like, you know, like I was bruised and battered and tortured and by the experience, but you know, she got what she wanted from putting me through the method like that. But what was great about it, you know, like I love the play, and the play was fantastic, but the audiences were only like 15 people, and it was in an apartment, so it was kind of like aesthetic was kind of dark IKEA. You know, we're in this IKEA apartment, everything's super IKEA, but there's horror going to happen here, and so you're in the kind of IKEA dining room, you're in the kind of IKEA space with these monsters, and because of that, I again got loads of experience with the close-up acting. So when I went into doing KCD 2, I felt like I kind of like had got an idea of what I came back to it with vigor. You know what I mean? I came back to it going, yes, let's do this. And so it was a lot of joy to come back to the character, of course. Like, you know, like that was the most amazing thing about it, to get to revisit it, a role that I love so much, and deepen it. So honestly, I think I'm going to echo a lot of other people here, but if you liked KCD 1, you're going to really like KCD 2. And if you like the story and the acting in KCD 1, then again, I think we've all grown up, you know what I mean? We've all been through stuff. We've all been through life the last few years, like everybody else, you know? So when they say that KCD is darker, you know, and Henry's more of a kind of arch Chad, you know. It's true, like it's darker, it's grittier, and I think it's shaped by these last few years personally, and I think that's good, you know. I think it's good that we've grounded that.
So I mean, I'm 50 now, so as I've been a gamer, well, since it was a thing, really, of video games, since they were a thing, really, right back at the beginning. And having watched motion capture grow up, if you like, what are your opinions on how that's led? Because one of my favorite performances of the last 10 years or so in video gaming, I think, has got to be, for me, I mean, and this is just the sort of games that I play. You know, I don't really play a lot of really super gritty, really dark games. I do play a lot of RPGs, and for me, Roger Clark's performance in Red Dead Redemption 2 was
I didn't play it. I didn't play it.
It was just stellar. But the capture, it wasn't just, everything about it seemed really sort of fluid and natural, and the whole thing, every little motion that he made, lighting matches on the soles of his, like everything about it just seems so fluid, and how expressive actors can be now with these mocap rigs and stuff like that is, what is your feeling on how
and again,
that's
I think
changed?
you're going to see that you'll see a lot of that in the making of documentary. And I know when we were making it that the guys, obviously there's a whole team there working on that at the same time as you're doing the game. So and they were really excited, some of the footage that they've got, and I think that's going to actually be really beautiful. Really excited to see that. I mean, I know it's not going to have the mass appeal of the game, but like definitely for everybody involved, it's an amazing celebration of everybody's work. So I'm really looking forward to that. Because it's funny as well watching us like muck around in the, like in the leotards, and we've got the polystyrene swords, and we're jumping around in like a, Matrix type thing. It's that's pretty funny, yeah.
Yeah, you can't be too you can't be too vain about that kind of performance, I guess.
No. I look awful, I'm sure. Absolutely awful. But I think we all do, and everybody gets super sweaty as well. We're all by the end of the day.
I think,
and I just want to say as well, actually, like, just maybe this is a good time to say it, but I've worked with different crews over time, different types of people, and the Warhorse Studios, we were working there. Those actors, when they were clocking on, they were worked. And we, in a lot of things you do as an actor, you get treated like a, oh, do you want this and do you want that and blah blah blah, and then you go on and say your one line, and it's not really it's no offense to anyone again, but I don't think it's as challenging as doing something like studio theatre or doing something like this. And we worked, if you were doing like 6 hours of motion capture, you were doing 6 hours of work, and it was great because it was like theatre. It was that reward that you get from theatre, that adrenaline and excitement and being in the character. So it's like gym, it really felt like theatre gym. Again, I hadn't got the hours that Tom got, so like he's gonna have been absolutely exhausted by it, I'm sure. Worn out day in, day out.
How much sort of time would you estimate? I mean, or how many hours would you estimate you put into this, do you think?
I don't know. Well, I mean, excluding any time that I did, character work and that kind of thing. Hours at work at the place.
Work, yeah. I don't mean in the game. I'm talking about
for the first one. I mean, just for Isfan, or for all of the other characters, like hours and hours and hours.
Just for Isfan, I think, yeah.
For Isfan, I did, like, in total maybe 40, 48, something like that. Yeah. So like nothing like the scope of what
Tom and Luke and people like that
was doing, like all these other guys, like loads of hours. But it's Yeah, I think it was around that. And then there's voiceovers afterwards. You know, you've got
ADR, yeah.
hours in the air and this kind of thing. So that kind of adds up.
I was actually trying to explain. I was trying to explain this to some of the, because you get a lot of comments on people that say, "Well, Father Godwin." You were talking about Randall Scott Williams there earlier, and Father Godwin.
Yeah.
There was a thing that happened that they showed in the trailer and the announcement, which had a lot of people going, "Well, that's Father Godwin." I said, "Yes, that's true," and they said, "But it doesn't sound right." I said, "No, the voice in that scene." I said, the only thing that I can think of, there are 2 or 3 explanations that I can think of. I said, one is that perhaps they've just taken a clip from a different scene, because it's definitely not Randall Scott Williams. There's no 2 ways about that, none at all.
Well, I mean, yes.
I'm sure he's a very talented voiceover artist, but if that's him doing lines as Father Godwin, why would he suddenly choose to have a different accent from a completely different continent, which he clearly has in the bit of the trailer that they showed there, unless that's
well, again, I don't know.
But the other, well, yeah, exactly. But my speculation was just, I said, well, I think probably the most likely explanations are either that's another line from another character that they just placed there in the trailer because they thought it was funny and it flowed nicely, or as a voiceover artist, I can tell you that voiceover is usually one of the last things that is done in a process like this, and it's quite possible that Randall Scott Williams had it's possible it was a placeholder actor. I've been used as a placeholder actor in voiceover many times, right? You'll record something,
right.
You'll record a line that they're going to use in a trailer, or if it's a corporate event, I do a lot of those, but then when you see the final thing, it's not you at all. They've paid someone much more money to so I said that's a possibility. Or it might be some line that you had to pick up in ADR that he hasn't done yet.
I think it might be to do with the accents.
Yeah.
Because of again, this is weird, right? But and I think it's England's fault. Actually, it's definitely. I'd specifically say it's England's fault, not the rest of the British Isles, but England itself. We've created a world where if you're going to do a medieval thing, then they didn't have American accents in a medieval time, so it's kind of it breaks the immersion. But for some reason, it's okay to do posh Britain in the 13th century, even though everybody sounded like they were from Leicester or something. For some reason,
don't get me started on that. I've had this argument so many times. Because I had commenters on the first game. I made a very popular review of the first game, and people kept coming in saying, "Why has this person got an American accent? Why has Father Godwin got an American accent? Why has Hanush, of course, why has he occasionally got an Australian accent that leaks through?" And I said, why are they all speaking English at all? What? It's just,
exactly.
Get over it.
This is the problem.
We're talking about early 15th century Bohemia, for goodness sake.
I know, but they have to, if they're going to sell realism, right? If that's the main part of the product, then they have to consider this, even though, as we both agreed there, it's not necessarily actually an issue of realism. It's more an issue of what's commercially acceptable reality or history. It's like I don't know if you ever watched Monkey Dust. Do you ever watch Monkey Dust?
No. It
was a BBC Three thing. It was a very dark cartoon, but they had they'd always have like American versions of the film. So they had an American version of Anne Frank, and Anne Frank was Irish and was living upstairs with her Irish family.
Okay.
And Hitler was English and lived in Berlin, England.
Obviously. Of course he is. Yes.
Yeah. Well, look, if you're going to have a bad guy, he's got to have a posh British accent, right? That's just that's de facto evil.
Of course. Right. I've got some questions from my viewers now, and I said, you'll forgive me, because as I said, I didn't ask them. To be fair to them, I didn't ask them this question till really early on this evening. So I didn't have time to write these questions out. I just copied and pasted. So it might.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. No stress.
So Eldar says, Logan follows cats and takes pictures of them or films them on Instagram. I was not familiar with this. Eldar has brought this to my attention, but I can't recall what their names are. Could you ask him if he's going to continue the series of their escapades?
Okay, so Okay, this is a massive question, so thank you, Eldar. I don't know if I can answer it completely because Kitten Beach, which is what you're talking about, Kitten Beach is not really, it's not so much a place as an idea, and it's a philosophy. So, think of Kitten Beach as a kind of ideal that we all seek after, and importantly for medieval fans, of which I'm sure everyone listening is, Kitten Beach, which is the story of me living with a bunch of feral cats in Greece, is actually about kind of learning virtues, right? It's about learning like almost like a medieval philosophy, like learning what it means to be virtuous, learning what it means to be chivalric. And these cats kind of characterized these virtues that I was so certainly, seeking to learn and find within myself. And so the six kind of virtues that I kind of focused in on that were named after the cats were kind of, again, I don't want to sound too twee here, but
Right.
times are dark, and it's good to seek after virtue. Like honestly, everybody listening. So the virtues were, I think, bravery, adaptability, perseverance, prudence, tenacity, and loyalty. So that's the kind of philosophy behind Kitten Beach. So will I continue those escapades? You will have to, if you want to learn more about Kitten Beach or learn more about my kind of meta kind of storytelling, then you should follow me on Instagram. That's kind of where I am. That's kind of where I've ended up.
I don't know why I keep looking to my microphone for the camera.
Yeah, if you want to learn about Kitten Beach, which again, it's a great question. I honestly think you should learn about Kitten Beach. I think it's a dream, and an ideal worth fighting for. But yeah, follow me on Instagram. That's where you're going to get updates from me at the moment. And I don't know about other social media in the future. We will see about that.
Thank you. I will put a link. I'll put a link to that in the description.
Yeah, cool.
All right, I'll dig it out and I'll put a link so people.
Kitten Beach forever.
Kitten Beach.
I've got you.
T-shirts coming to
you. Kitten Beach forever. Okay, sorry. Carry on.
But Eldar actually just wanted me to say he's a big fan, and he thinks that you're funny, and that his part in The Fault, the little I have seen, he says. Excuse me, let me just remove that.
Oh, that's nice. You watched The Fault. Okay, that's
hilarious.
Good.
And he wants to know if there is a way to watch the whole play remotely, even if it requires payment.
Yeah, so that's great. That's great. Thank you for mentioning that. The Fault is a play that will be in Prague, probably in the winter. And I've already told you a little bit about my character as like kind of a fusion of Kafka and Shakespeare, and there's an interdimensional rose. It all gets very silly, but it's very well written and very, very epic. And there's a lot of great lines in there. So certainly there'll be pieces of The Fault put in various forms, whether it be Instagram or YouTube or any of these other platforms. Because again, The Fault, as I see it, isn't so much a piece of theatre as it is an idea that probably has come of time, come of its age.
Yeah,
needs to be thought about. It's kind of implications of science gone mad. I think that's the kind of essence of it. Like no regulation. Again, I don't want to stop everybody's fun, but I think it's probably time to regulate everything heavily. Right? Yes. If that's my political stance, I think everyone who's been having way too much fun with science and with finance and all of that stuff, everybody needs to be regulated. Okay, end of my political rant.
No worries. No, we haven't got a lot of time left.
That's kind of folded into the play as well, and there'll be various fragments of it. But if you want to come and see it, then it will be in Prague. And I will give you the location and the date closer to the time. But
okay,
what you saw was a piece from a staged reading that we did. It wasn't a performance. It was kind of a gathering of people and students and so on that interested in literature and theatre and that kind of thing, and underground kind of that kind of scene.
This out myself.
But it was great. It was good fun. And as I said, the writer is fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to doing that when I go back.
Excellent. Right, we've just got a couple of others here that actually, realistically, I wrote these down, but they've actually already been answered while we've been rambling on there. But I'll just touch on.
Okay, well, if you want to ask them again and generate a different answer from the random
well,
ideas,
I'm running out of time on this second session, and just to save us having to connect again, I'll just cover these last.
All right, no worries.
GW asks, "Are you a gamer?" Which you've told me that you are, and have you played Kingdom Come Deliverance? He wants to know.
Yes, I have. I nearly completed it. Basically, it was a good game. It didn't glitch until right at the monastery. And when I got into the monastery crime scene, there was a weird little jump, and the perpetrator kind of revealed his identity straight away, and that kind of like mangled the monastery mission. And then I couldn't unscrew it for some reason, and then I think there was another game competing for my time, but I did a lot of the game. I spent, I don't know, many hours going through the woods and fighting Hungarians and tracking myself down and so on. So I am a player. Yes, I am a gamer.
He's a gamer. Yes.
Yeah.
Aku asked a similar question to what I asked earlier on. How has this role, Istvan, presumably he's talking about, been different from previous roles, and what have been the biggest challenges?
That's a good question as well. The similarity, the way I see it as well, between the roles that I've played in the past and Istvan, is a character called Citizen Marat from this play called Marat Sard. And it's a very strange play. And again, it's quite political, but the Citizen Marat is like the guy who was behind the French Revolution. And I had that kind of raspy voice a little bit. That's where I developed that voice. So, and then I think I made it a little bit more. I changed it a little bit on what the directors wanted and so on. I altered it a little bit for them, but and then I don't know what else would like kind of feed into the role per se. There's a character I play Warwick in a play about Joan of Arc. And he had this very kind of similar evil. I kind of like blended that and then changed it according to what they wanted. And it's a bit Shakespearean, of course. And these characters as well. Both these plays were kind of aping Shakespeare. So it's a little bit Iago, isn't it? It's a little bit that kind of vibe as well. But I don't know. Can you just repeat the question? I think I might have missed detail.
He was just asking, in terms of acting, how has this role been different from previous ones, and what have been the biggest challenges in playing Istvan?
Yeah, so I don't see it as necessarily being evil, but I don't see it as necessarily being significantly different from roles I've played in the past. I have played similar roles, but the fusion and then the direction obviously made it completely different. And then the way in which we were, recording this kind of material, the studio setting, all of the equipment that you're wearing, all of these, you have to do these weird kind of T poses where you're kind of becoming like a Tron figure. Yeah. And it's a very strange ritual that's kind of behind it. So learning all of that, and it kind of goes into it, like I don't think the guys will necessarily be thinking about it like that. I don't know, but like that's the way because you have these things where you put makeup on, right? In the theatre, you do various rituals. Well, these ones are different because you've got this weird kind of like magnetic kind of field that you're in. So, and that was interesting. The way that process of I don't want to sound too pretentious here, and that's really not my intention. But you kind of become, you prepare, right? The actor prepares,
of course.
And there was a different journey for that, and it shapes it. It shapes it because you're actually acting differently when you're in a leotard, like a very embarrassing leotard. You kind of got to go for it. You know,
of course.
You look stupid. You look really stupid.
But so does everybody else, I guess. If you...
Yeah, but you've just got to. That just like makes you commit. You know, it makes you commit in a way that's different, I think, to theatre. Because I think sometimes in theatre, especially if the costume designer is good, then you can hide behind your costume a bit. If the costume is great, it's like, look at the costume, I'm crap, just look at the costume. Whereas you basically like, you know, you're kind of like, you're very exposed. Yeah, it's quite vulnerable kind of acting. It's interesting.
Excellent.
But yeah, I think that was probably the biggest challenge, like bouncing around in this kind of like meta space and getting used to all of that. And the thing this headset that goes on your back, there's like kind of like massive, like, I don't know whether it's a power pack or a memory pack or something like that, but that's almost like a cybernetic implant. Like it kind of digs into your cerebellum. And that was painful, you know. And again, a good director would tell you to use that. You know, a good director would say, okay, well then use it. So, you know, like then we're just using it. You're using the pain, you're using the exposure, you're using all of that stuff. And it's helping you make a character that's like sharper, I think. So yes, there were challenges, but we used them. Yeah.
Excellent answer. Thank you very much for that, Logan. We're just about out of time here, and I don't want
to... Okay, yeah, sorry, man. Sorry.
No, don't worry about that. It's like the more we get out of you, the better. That's been great.
Yeah, no, I tend to ramble, though, yeah.
But, oh, well, I do the same, so it wasn't a good combination, really. So you get me rambling. I'm sure the viewers won't see a lot of the rambling that you and I did between...
Okay, yeah, please cut anything that's too embarrassing, and definitely cut the bits where I said that everybody was an idiot, you know?
That interview had rather an abrupt end when Zoom kicked me off because I don't have the wherewithal to purchase the version that doesn't kick you off every 40 minutes, so apologies for that. But you can find links to Logan's Instagram in the video description if you'd like to keep up with his current and upcoming projects. He's quite active on there and always has a lot going on, so head over and check it out if you're into doing the Instagram thing. I tend to edit these interviews and discussions down to a manageable size for YouTube, trying to keep in only the most relevant bits, since I do have a tendency to ramble when in a discussion, and previous experience has shown me that YouTube viewers as a whole tend to like a more compact, more concise video, and not as many viewers come to watch the longer extended versions. But if you're one of my Patreon patrons, I will be putting up a less heavily edited version on there in the next couple of days, which keeps in most of the 10 minutes long tangents on completely unconnected topics. Aren't you lucky? That's it from me, but there will be more KCD content from me in the coming weeks and months. But in the meantime, if there's something you especially want to ask me, you can leave a comment or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and even Instagram now. Or you can join my lovely community in the Sleepless Night Discord server. All of these things are linked in the video description or in the links section at the top of the Nights Arcade channel page. But until next time, from Nights Arcade, this is Sleepless Night saying nighty-night.